All right, well, welcome to Posh Pros Masterclass. Please welcome to the stage Posh Pro Megan, the Posh Kings, and Team Posh Kelsey.
Hello, you're amazing. How's everyone doing? Day one, how are you doing? Good. Welcome to the Posh Pros Masterclass. I must say,
Just move a little bit that way.
You guys are all looking fabulous and getting so much outfit inspiration at POSHFEST. I'm really excited to be here with you all today and to share the stage with these three lovely folks. And we just can't wait to really jump in and get started. So we have a lot to cover, and I want to save time at the end for some questions. So we'll just go ahead and jump in. My name is Kelsey Reardon. I am on Team Posh. I'm on the product marketing team. I am coming from Chicago. There's Chicagoans are in the room. Yeah! I love it. And I've been with Poshmark for a little under 2 years, and now I'm thrilled to introduce these three lovely folks. So first, we have Brad and John, who you may also know as the Posh Kings. They are coming all the way from just outside Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and they joined Poshmark back in 2015. And before joining Poshmark, they actually owned a very successful chain of luxury men's clothing stores. And I'm just really excited for you all to hear their story and their journey today. They've been shown in a ton of really reputable publications, such as the LA Times, Miami Herald, and so many others. So if we can, please give one more really warm welcome for Brad and John. Next up, we have Megan, who you might also know as Washington. And she's also a fellow Chicagoan coming from just outside the city. And Megan's story is also a really exciting one. Before joining Poshmark back in 2018, she actually has a career that has spanned so many different industries, from marketing to television production, and so her background is a really exciting one for us to talk through today as well. And really for Megan, her business is all about really empowering female home businesses to really start their own retail business, and so I'm just really excited for you all to hear more about her story. She recently started going live with her husband, incredible husband Tim, who is here today. Tim, give us a wave. Yay! And they have been really successful together. And so let's just give one more warm welcome for Megan. All right, so let's just do a quick pulse check to make sure we've all had lunch, we've had our caffeine, we're good to go. So if you can, make some noise if this is your first POSHFEST. Yay, you guys, it's my first one too, so yay for us. I love to see it. Second is make some noise if you hosted a Posh show. Amazing! And then without further ado, make some noise if you're ready to take your Posh show to the next level. Amazing. Okay, so today's session is really about 3 key takeaways. These are 3 takeaways that these 3 incredible folks, as well as many other hosts, have really found to be incredibly helpful when it comes to being successful with shows. We're going to actually break those big ideas down into some more tactical things. I think one of the worst things is going to a conference like this and walking away feeling really excited, but then getting home and being like, I actually don't really know how to take those things and apply them to my business. So as we go through each section, there's going to be a screen up that kind of summarizes more of those tactical items. Feel free to take a screenshot when we get there, hopefully it's helpful. I think what's especially cool is that all 3 of them have been wildly successful on shows, and they do things differently. And I think there's this misconception that you have to do shows a certain way to be successful, and that's just not the case. And so as you hear more about their story, I'm sure you'll start to see those differences, but they all have been working incredibly well for them. So we're going to dive in. I'm going to start off by sharing a pretty exciting stat about all of them. So since launching shows, they've been able to more than triple their revenue, which is just incredibly impressive. And I think a lot of us here in the room are probably thinking, well, how do they do that, right? And so we're going to jump into that. And one of the key things that we continue to hear, not only from them, is that it's really important to take marketing into your own hands. And so I'd love to start with you, John, and kind of go almost back a bit in time when you were owning the men's luxury stores. I imagine that time gave you a lot of experience, and so I'd love to know, like, what are some of the key marketing tactics that you feel like you brought from that time into your business with shows?
Well, first of all, I have to make it known, I am well aware that my blouse is a little too tight. I had a little too much salt last night, had room service, and I am wearing it like a bad hat right now.
You look fabulous.
Well, what can you do, right? That's why it's busy print. So with that being said, referring back to Kelsey, we owned a chain of men's clothing stores for numerous years. It was really interesting being able to transfer that knowledge into Posh shows. It's kind of a matter in which of maneuvering the two together, where that you don't always get in a quote-unquote static sale. Advertising is crucial. It really is. Developing who you are as a seller, as any type of seller, but especially with Posh shows, it's really important to be able to engage people, allow them to get to know you, as well as to use all of the different tools that are there for you to advertise your product. It's very, very different as resellers. We are not a brand, so to speak, in the typical way, meaning we don't own the companies that produce the products often. But what we can do is get people to know us, like our personalities, and so forth, and advertise, as well as use all the tools that are there for us. We use Canva around the clock. I think pretty much everyone who would make it seem like our ads. It's really important to have a common thread in your advertising so that you immediately become noticed for what you do. I think so often, sometimes people get really engaged in creating a pretty picture, but does that describe what you're selling, who you are as a seller? You want to create something whereas someone immediately can look at the advertisement that you have and know what you stand for, and immediately get an idea of what you're going to be selling or what level of products you wish to sell to anyone.
I love that. I think too, just to kind of add in, it also I think comes from, you mentioned Canva, having this like consistent look and feel to your shows. So I know all three of them have worked really hard to think about not just your cover shot of your show, but also your backdrop and how what is your look and feel of your social media that you're using for marketing your shows. That consistency really does go a long way. Megan, I saw you nodding your head too. And I'd love to kind of go back from your experience too, like yours, from working in TV, but also I think that there's a lot I've seen you do in your shows, even from day one, that has helped you be really successful. So what would you say is like the one thing that you've done since day one that you think has had a lot of impact?
I think you need to be as consistent as possible with your shows. Whatever that thing is, decide to do it and stick to it. And, sometimes those things don't work, and then you tweak it a little bit, and then you stick with that. And right now we're in a zone where we're not moving because it's working, So we say it constantly throughout the show, because you realize in these Posh shows, people are going in and out of these shows. They're going from me to Posh Games to somebody else, back again. They're watching their TV show, they're watching movies. So you can't assume they've heard you 30 minutes ago. So that advertising that John's talking about has to happen constantly throughout the show, and it feels a little repetitive, but you'll see me in the show say, we're here Monday, hey guys, it's a lull moment. Hey guys, we're here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we run for everything for $8. Because otherwise somebody's gonna say, how much is that gonna run for? And you want the flow and the passion and the excitement of your show to keep going and keep growing throughout the evening or throughout your show. You want to keep people, you got a second to hook them. And whether that's putting something on Instagram earlier, like we go live, record and show the whole set and people excited about certain brands. You know, we're starting to go live on TikTok, which I don't even, you know, my daughter's helping me with that. But, you know, we're doing all these little things to get people there. Once you get them there, the advertising becomes keeping them there. You gotta advertise to keep them there. You guys, we're here Friday. If you can't stay tonight, we're gonna be here Friday night, Mr. Sandman. We got $8 stuff then. Oh, wait till you see, we had to hold back a Tory Burch. You know, we say stuff like that throughout the show because you've gotta assume there's always, every second, a new person in there that hasn't seen you before and doesn't know what's going on.
Love that. It's also too, I think, when you're starting out, like trying different times that might work, testing out different times, and really finding the time that you feel is working best, and then sticking to it. I think all three of them, I know what time they're consistently going live, and I think that's almost like a built-in marketing tool, right? Because people know when to expect you in shows. I want to touch on a little bit about social media. So, Brad, I know like there's probably people here in the room. I honestly am one of them. I am not a social media guru. I wish I was. It's just not something I've ever had like a strong knack for. And so, what would you say to someone who might be thinking to themselves, I am not a social media guy, and I don't really feel like I know how to promote myself. Like, what advice would you give to them?
Well, first thing I would definitely say is don't feel silly or awkward. You know, a lot of us are all introverted in some way, shape, or form. A little nervous to be in front of a camera. I know, like they say, you know, we don't have the biggest following as you guys do. Is it really going to help? And I always say to everybody, so does John, it doesn't matter if you have 100,000 followers or 100 followers. It's free advertising, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram.
On every platform.
On every platform, it's 100% free. Use it to your fullest benefit. I mean, when we had our stores for 20 plus years, we would pay thousands of dollars a week for we call them the rags, the local newspaper or the articles or the magazine every week for advertising. At that point, Facebook was charging astronomical prices to advertise. Use it to your advantage, it's free. And honestly, even if you have a smaller following, start small. The more you advertise, the more it gets out there. We all are doing the same things because we piggyback off each other. We're all trying to help each other. I know we advertise other people. Everyone in this room advertises each other. And that's why I always tell everybody, you know, just do it, and you'll definitely see results for sure. It's free.
Yeah, just like starting
Little
small.
point, the cover photo, everything that you're putting out with the Canva you're using, that's your advertisement too. That's also free advertising. That's sitting there trying to draw someone in. Make it bold, make it simple, say what you're doing. $8, $3, Lululemon, whatever it is, make it big and bold and tell them when you're going to be there. And it's the best advertising you can for it.
And if I may, very, very briefly, you know, I think most people contact us all the time, and they're like, you know what, I'm nervous, I'm a little bit shy to get in front of my camera, so forth and so on. Once you take the step to do it, it really gets easier. It gets so much easier. A dear friend of ours, Lynn, in the closet, was such a total basket case about being in front of anything. Now you can't get her out of the camera. We love her. We love her.
Everyone make sure you guys find Lynn in the closet. She's an amazing friend. We've been friends with her for many years.
And she's always on the
I love it. So let's do a quick recap. We just covered a few different, I think, key tactics, and there's quite a few more that we could cover together. I think we talked about the consistency. So that also comes with planning. So thinking through what are the seasonal moments that you might want to lean into and planning further out, because the more you have planned out, I think the seamless each week will go. So that's one thing that they definitely have talked about, the importance of that. Determining what types of promotions you might want to offer. I know when I am first joining a lot of newer hosts, a lot of times they are finding maybe smaller items that they're willing to kind of insert as a thank you or freebie. And obviously that might not be something that's sustainable long term, but I think it's something that does go a long way, and that customers are always excited when they receive your package and open that. So just think of what are ways that you can do that in your own shows. Using social media, like Brad talked about, being consistent with your show times, really having that as that built-in marketing for you is huge. But obviously, if you're getting started, feel free to test different times and determine what works for you in your time zone and your followers. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and people are going live at all different times, as I'm sure you all have seen with shows today. And then really creating that consistent look and feel. I know from their experience, that curb appeal with stores, like having a brick and mortar store, that is huge. The same thing goes for virtual. There's so many people going live now. And so as, more are joining and more are hosting, making sure that your show really stands out and really represents what your business is all about and what you're going to be covering in your show. What are the price points that matter for you? Really highlight those in your title and your cover shot. And then last is, we didn't touch on this in the conversation, but QR codes. I think, many of you are aware of sending different QR codes in your packages that link back to your closet. But if you have a big show coming up, if you have a big holiday show, create a QR code for that and direct people to that show, that big bookmark it. There's just all these small things that you can do that I think they have really found to go a long while. So next we're gonna move on, and I'm gonna share another, I think, really exciting stat about these three lovely folks is that on average, they're seeing around 440 unique viewers come to their show over the course of the show. And what we mean when we say unique viewer, it means that I joined Megan's show, I might have left and then came back and counted once. So that's a really impressive number of people coming to the show. And so I kind of wanted to maybe understand, Megan, from your perspective, what is something fun and really unique that you're doing in your shows that you feel like is keeping people coming back? And that's a really big number of people.
Well, I dance a lot.
Love to see it.
I like music and I dance a lot just because there's, not a whole lot else to do when showing first. I just tend to dance. So that started really early on and it's sort of organic and now people expect it. I feel like I'm degenerate or whatever, but I feel like I do dance a lot. But that's just my thing. I feel comfortable dancing, you might not. But we also have a very impressive set. We are in production, we have a very lit, these guys too, lit, beautiful background. I cannot stress this enough. No one likes looking up your nose, no one likes seeing your ceiling, and nobody likes a dark area. If you have your window behind you, they're not going to be able to see you. So I say to everyone that I've ever asked me about this, make sure your set looks good, and you can do that by turning on your camera before the show starts. You can turn your camera on and see exactly what they're seeing. Yeah. And you need to make sure that lighting, everything, spend a little money on a few ring lights, make sure your lighting is excellent because they are going to flip in, flip out if it's dark, I promise you. Second of all, we're nice and loud, we've got music playing, really simple stuff everyone can do. And we are very clear and consistent about what we're showing you. You know what you're getting, you know what the price point is, and we're happy. There's no drama, there's no side conversations. People almost never pop into my show and don't see me. I never walk off the set. If I do, I'm mad at myself because every single person that pops into my show is important to me. I want to keep them there. So if you pop in, there's 3 people there, and like, there's no girl here. They leave. You can't do that to yourself. You have to plan, and for your first shows, plan. Especially if you are doing it by yourself. The more you plan, the more you have in the background, the more stuff you're ready with. You don't have to leave. You don't have to search for anything. Also, I don't get distracted. I don't let a buyer come in and say, if you have X, you have to multitask and tell somebody else to look at that, or you look at it off to the side. If you can't find it, you're going to have to move on. You've got to keep the pace up because people have no patience. Just assume they're all toddlers. And it's not their fault. I'm like that too. I have ADD. I'm watching a movie. I'm watching a TV show. I got kids running in and out of the house. Think about where they are in their life watching you. You can't assume you're the center of their universe. But you do want them to stay and shop, right? So they know what to expect when they come to me. And we are very, final thing I'll say, very good with communication. They ask a question, Tim answers it, or I answer it, I'm watching those comments. we respond to our buyers, and we make them feel at home. That is the most important thing. It's the reason Poshmark is so effective and why it works for you and why this app, I've said on every other app, this is the best app because when I share you, when I tell people to go pitch like your closet or look at your closet, they can do that seamlessly from inside my show, and I helped you, and you helped me, and the algorithm works, and it's beautiful.
I love that. I think something else that Megan does in her show that I always think is fun too is in the first like 10 minutes, you really take your time to really help like people get acclimated to what other inventory you have coming up, to get people excited. Like Megan takes them kind of on this little like shopping behind the scenes journey that people I think really enjoy. And I think that also it allows for your viewer count to grow at the start of your show. So taking those like first 5 to 7 minutes to get people just to get to know each other.
Don't run something immediately, and you gotta give people time to get in. It's even if you all of a sudden have 50 people in there right this second, give them a second. For whatever reason, those first few things are not gonna soar to the top price point. So start slow at the beginning of these shows. People come in, they're checking things out, they're trying to figure you out, what's going on. The good news is you've got them. They're there, they're present, and that's when you really, you say, how was your day? How was your weekend? We made it, it's Friday, woohoo, all that stuff happened until you see that number go up a little bit and you're ready to go.
Love it. So Megan just touched on some fun, like unique things that she's doing at the start of her shows. Brad, I'd love to ask you, what are some of the like small things that you were doing more so behind the scenes during your show that you think really do drive impact?
Well, as everyone knows by now, I think, I'm not the talker. I can literally talk to someone for hours, and John's like, let's go, like, I'm stop talking. So it is a benefit that there's two of us, obviously. So while John is, showcasing something, or at least explaining how the show's gonna run, I'm running the chat. So we see familiar faces, we meet new faces every single day, because there are new people joining every single day. Everyone who joins, I look at them as if we have our stores. I know we use a lot of reference back to our stores, but that's what was so great, this like platform that we use to go on to Poshmark with, and that is people that come into our shows, it's just like having them come into our stores, so I want to welcome them, say hello, especially if it's a repeat customer, or somebody I've seen before, ask them how they're doing, like Megan, of course, also said. But I also am a firm believer in if you have any requests, or if you're asking for something that we might not even have, I have a pad on the side. I write down requests, and I'll tell everybody, we're going to get your request shortly. I want everyone to think that when you come to our show that we are working one-on-one, hands-on with you. It really is the, I always call it the art of the sale. Treat it as if someone was right in front of you in your store, and treat everyone the same exact way. And that's kind of what we do on the sideline. Also, if people are like, do you have this shirt? Because we usually do a lot of like new tags, multiple runs or multiple items. If we don't have the size, I'll write down the size and who it's for. And I'll say, I'll have it next week for you. Come back, or I'll write you when you have it. If anybody else is interested, let me know. I can always find something else for you.
I love that. So it's really, I feel like, knowing your audience and knowing them well. My clicker is not clicking. There we go. And I think that comes in a lot of different forms. And I think one of the coolest things about Posh shows is that everyone is bringing their own flair to it. No show is the same. And I don't know about you all, but I definitely find myself laying in bed at night, just scrolling through stuff in these shows. I'm not the only one who does that. Just randomly, I see some hands, thank you. And John, from your perspective too, I'd love to hear your thoughts on. I think I'm sure as we're all getting started as hosts, we turn to other hosts and look through different shows, and there's things that I think we can all probably say that we're like, ooh, I loved that in that show, or ooh, I thought that was really, fun and different. And I'd love to hear, John, your perspective on are there things that you found from other shows that you're really, bringing into your own?
Of course, and there's one thing I'd like to tag on to what Brad said, is that it really is interesting. For 3 months, we kept track, we were curious, because look, we do things a certain way, but of course, everyone out there maybe doing something that's really working very well for you. There are lots of ways to gain success, and if it's working, keep going. As long as it's positive and really getting you what you need. we did kind of a test for 3 months as to how many requests. Initially, when we first started, we really weren't into requests. We're like, you know what, this is really kind of annoying. And then we found that we were averaging selling 500 plus more items a month by stopping for a couple of seconds and pulling something off of the rack that we already had, that may not have been in the initial, quote unquote tray, let's call it. So, you know what, sometimes requests can really be great, because especially with us, we know that a lot of you will have sometimes several items. If you buy something, you may have it in a few different sizes. So that's a great advantage too. There's so many different ways of doing things. But I have to tell you, something that we love, is back to what you said, is when you go into a show and it just feels so genuine, so real, like you can really connect with the person. Human beings innately can just tell if someone is feeding them a bunch of guacamole, or if they're genuine people, they're genuinely knowledgeable about what they're selling, they're genuine about being interested in having you as a patron, a client, or whatever it is. People know. It's so important. Be yourself. Also, very quickly, if I may, so often, another question we get a lot is people are nervous. They're like, you know what, I'm really afraid to do pod shows, going into it. It's not who I am. And look, there are a lot of people that's just not quite their natural thing to do, to be in front of a camera. What I will tell you is, a large portion of the buying community or the Poshmark community is so loving, so accepting, and so kind. If it's your first show, and look, there are always, the other people, but we don't talk about that. It just happens, that's life, right? But what's really important is that so many people, if it's your first show, you know what, tell them that. Tell them, you know what, I'm really nervous, but you know what, I'm here. So you'd be surprised, one, how many more sales you'll get for that, but two, how loving and kind people will be. And then next time, you know what, let's say if you only have 2 or 3 people in your room, I bet you at least 1 or 2 of the 3 or 4 that you had will come back. That's how you build your clientele. Don't just see the beginning, see the pathway. The pathway will be big. We didn't start out big. I mean, our Poshmark was a little crazy. It gets there, So just keep trying, keep believing, and it's okay to share a bit of yourself. People will love you that much more and buy more from you, trust me.
I love that, yeah.
I'm the author.
I think one thing I'm always really impressed when watching their shows, and many of your shows honestly probably too, is that so many of you have built such strong connections with your audience. And I know I joined one of their shows this week and someone had like a surgery or like someone, and they know. And I think that's what's so cool about this form of your business on Poshmark, is that there is this connection that you can't get, in the same way. And so really leaning into that, like they said. So we'll do a quick recap of some of, these different, I think, tactics. So personally welcoming new shoppers as they come in and really kind of taking those first 5 to 7 minutes to see how you can increase your viewer count, and take that time to bond with them and ask questions. If you haven't used the full feature, that's another thing you can do too, to get feedback. If you're just starting out and you're not really sure what people are shopping for or wanting, go ahead and try that out. I think you'll get some good feedback from that, to understanding how to shape your feature shows as you're getting started. The other is taking notes of winning price points. I think one question we get asked a lot is where to start auctions. And I think that's a question that is very unique to you and your business. Like they said, Megan starts every auction at $8. Brad and John do things a little bit differently, and they're all wildly successful. And so kind of test things out, test the waters, see what's working with your viewers, and know that it's okay to try different things. The other is allow them to get to know you and really bring them out that authenticity, and you can't talk, to your shows, and that's really huge. And then I think also asking for feedback, whether it's through the polls or just asking that in the chat for them to share with you. I think that's how you really start to build that rapport with the people who are taking the time to stay in your show when there's a ton of other shows going on all at once. So next, I'm going to share another fun stat about them, is that on average, they post about 3 to 6 shows per week, which some of you might be saying, that's a lot. I work full-time, or I'm doing something different. And that's okay too. This is just what they have found to really work within their schedule, and that's kind of where they tend to stay each week. And that they're also increasing their followers. This number is also increasing since I have this on here, which is really exciting. But since starting Posh Shows, they've been able to increase their followers by over 10%, which is really actually quite massive when you think about it. So I want to kind of dig into a little bit more of how you all have really thought about that. So Brad, I'd love to start with you. When you kind of had this, I think shift, sorry, my clicker is really struggling with this. But I think when it comes down to it, they've really shifted their mindset since launching shows and really have honed in on, of all the areas in Poshmark, Posh Shows is their big focus. And so, Brad, I do want to start with you. And I think when you guys kind of have this shift for Posh Shows, what would you say has become like the key strategy for you that you all follow every time you go live?
Well, first, we definitely try to, especially prior to our shows, we'll always pull like our first 50 items. It's almost like a curation. We don't typically do the one theme. We've done it before, like whether it's a plus size party only or bags and shoes or luxury. We try to get a little bit of like the one-stop shop concept, which is what we do with our stores. So we go what we call our bookends. So we'll do everything that's very affordable, even up to some really high-end luxury items, all in the same show. And we try to blend it all in together. So we want everyone to know when they come in that, look, if you're looking for something for yourself or for somebody else, you can actually stay in our show and find more than just one item. It's not just a specific category. And that's just the way we run our shows. It works for us. We really try to focus on.
Well, I think what you're saying is that, something we always do with our stores, all businesses, we apply to everything is that never underestimate someone's ability or desire to spend. Meaning, some people love, easy, breezy items. They could have millions of dollars in the bank, but they want $3 to $5 items, and that's just how it is. A sale is a sale, right? And then you also have people who just will buy whatever they want. What we find is that we like to kind of curate the show with various types of things. And obviously a large portion, even though we sell men's items, a large portion of our client base are women, of course. But you know what? We used to do sometimes just plus size or sometimes petites or whatever it is. But what we found, especially right now, it's holiday season, people aren't just buying for themselves. Mm-hmm. They're buying gifts. They're buying, my daughter-in-law, would love this cute top. So we just like to have everything. And also, you can put a few whatever you perceive super high to be, into it, because shockingly enough, they sell. They sell, really. You don't have to stick to just one thing. We really feel that people in general, if they're in the show, more than likely, let's say if you have 50 people, I would say at least 30 of them are willing to spend. The others are just kind of watching, it's fun, they're sitting in front of the television doing something else. So why not give them a whole different allure of different types of things that they can purchase?
Real fast, because I got my brain. Thank you so much. So I'll say it really fast. Thank you, appreciate that. We always try to keep, especially when we watch our shows, we always say we try to keep the show flow moving along, so we don't waste time asking someone, you want to see this, you want to see this, you want to see this, because I forget immediately what you want to see. So we just show everything. You keep the show flow moving along, you describe it as best as possible, so we now also realize real fast, like John just said, somebody might not have even thought about buying, let's say, a sweater for us.
But once you describe it
and paint an image for them, and it's really the art of the sale again. You can actually make them go, you know what, I want that sweater.
I love that. I think too, we're kind of going back to what we said earlier, there's this importance of being consistent too, I think with a lot of the tactics that we're talking about. And so I know there's probably things that you all do every time you show, there's things you change up, but Megan, I'd love to get your thoughts too when it comes to that mindset of like, this is my business. Like, what is one thing that you do every single week consistently, whether it's outside your shows, that you feel like is kind of like a really good indicator of your success?
I think this goes back to knowing your audience, knowing your customers. We have a list of our customers' names, we know who they are, and we kind of start to learn, and this is just organic. You learn this, it's not anything scary, it just happens to you. You learn what they like. We start looking and shopping like a personal shopper for our buyers, because we know they're gonna come back and shop for those things. But we kind of do a shock and awe approach to our shows. I spend the day of our shows prepping my set. It looks like Christmas for purse lovers. Everything's loaded. The lower end bags have themes. There's always Disney items. There's always Harry Potter. There's, and then we've got the Gucci and the, Gaultier and little higher end stuff. And it all runs for $8. So people will patiently wait for things that they want. And you have to realize that when you're looking at your audience as a whole, you've got the folks that are hanging out just to be friendly, and you've got the serious buyers who want the pace of show to keep moving so they get to their things. There's the people that are just taking it all in, and then like John said, they're going to buy stuff surprisingly, and then they've got something on a pile of a bundle there. So we know our customers, we know what they like. We try to consistently hone in on the items we're sourcing, so that our money goes up. You gotta look at this like an actual business. Forget that this was your favorite thing to do with your dad, on the weekends, garage selling and thrifting. Just forget that you come home every week to your husband or your wife and say, but it was a good deal. Those things are over now. This is your business. You're working it like a business. Poshmark has all the tools you need. You can see everything you're making. You can download your sales. You can do all of that and do it. Use it. Use the tools that they give you to make this your business. See it as such. Tell people you're doing it as a business, that it's important to you, and make it important. If something sells, get it again. If something sells really well, buy 5. Really make sure that you are offering to your customers the things that they're going to sell, and they're going to fight for it. Because this is an auction, and don't discount that auction as an important piece of your hardware, your tools, because it's a little like gambling. They love it. They're going to bid for those things they really want.
Love it. Let's do a quick recap. So I think for this, it's really about being intentional with your time and keeping that steady pace. I do think this is one of the biggest ones because there's a lot of questions that come in the chat during shows. A lot of really good questions that, they all do take the time to either answer or come back to or make note of. But the pace of your show and being able to get through your listing tray as fast as possible is really the key, because the faster you can go through it, the more potential you have for sales. And so if people do jump in and have a question, I think it's totally okay, unless it's like a question about the listing that you're currently auctioning. Just say, hey, great question, we're gonna come back to that in just a second. I took a quick note of it. That way you keep that pace going to continue to get through your show. Creating a consistent plan for how and when you are sourcing your inventory. We didn't go too much into this in our conversation, but I think what it really comes down to, that all 3 of them have really nailed down, is a plan. I think Megan said like every Monday at a certain time, like they're going. And so having that plan laid out, just like you're planning out your shows, and then also allocating your inventory to the specific shows. So it's a lot easier on you once you plan it out for which listings are going in which show. And then deeply understand how much you spent and how much you brought in. I think that there's a lot that Megan kind of touched on that you can track within Poshmark, which is incredible. So using the tools that you have within the app, but there are probably going to be some expenses that you might have outside of Poshmark. Like if you are using Canva to get started at least, or if you are printing out QR codes, there's these little expenses that it's important to keep track of those things as well. And then really building that strong personal brand and knowing what makes you different. I think this is by far my favorite part about Posh shows, and I think I can speak on behalf of these three as well, is everyone can have a closet on Poshmark, which is great. But I think the personality and the fun and just the environment that you can create with your audience of shoppers on shows is kind of unmatched. And so it's just a really exciting opportunity to really lean into. So I think we're going to go ahead and now we're going to do some Q&A. So we'd love to hear from you all and see what questions you might have for Brad, John, and Megan. I think we might have a mic runner in here where we can get some questions answered. If not, I think we're a good enough group, we're going to be able to hear you. So anyone can raise their hand if you have a question, and you can, go ahead.
What's an average time you set your show for? Like I've seen some people do it for an hour, 4 hours.
So the question was, what is the average time that a show typically is going for?
I think it really depends on the person, if I may. With us, look, I'm going to lay it out to you. Sometimes we go on, we blow it out of the water. Like, people are there, it's hot in the city, we're spending money, I'm doing this thing, and we could go on for 2, 4, 6 hours. And there are other times I go on, and after 20 minutes, it is bone dry. Joan, and look, we have no problem. We feel it out, it's dry, after 45 minutes, we're out the door. Thank you for joining us. Look, time is money because there's other things that we need to do. So that's different. I know Megan has a very different process. We kind of feel it out. What's going on? If people are there to spend, we're going to stay there with you.
But can you give a time when you set it up? How does that?
It doesn't.
Now you no longer have to do that.
So you can put in a duration, but it doesn't mean you have to stick to that. So you can always go over it.
It doesn't end, it doesn't just stop.
Yeah, if you set it for an hour, it won't shut down after an hour. If you set it for half an hour, it won't shut down after that either.
I always just set it for 6 and see what happens.
And then your event that you do each item for, say, between 15 to 60 seconds. What's that?
The question was more about the length of the
I think
Of each item, like
Yeah.
if I first, do I do it for the 15 seconds or whatever? Or
There's only a 30, 45, or 60.
Okay, 30.
We do for 60, as after we do our tour drop, which we walk around, you can't see everything on our set from the shot. So we give them sort of a shopper's view, walk them around in a second device and show everything. People call things out, kind of like a memory game, and they call things out, and we'll run those after the tour drop. So during that period of run, we knock it down to 45 seconds. But it takes you a good bit of time to explain something, measure it, hand it off, and put a tag on it so that it has the person's name on it and it doesn't get lost, and put it in a pile. So you gotta give yourself enough time through that process to show your item, let people breathe, the only time I really do a 30-second thing is if I'm running something specifically for someone's payment failed, or rerunning it from them, that kind of stuff. It's not enough time for me to really give them the explanation. Realize that the thing that's selling this item, partly, if it's a Lululemon will sell, etc. But when I get into a bag and I go, look at this cool pocket it has, and this is unique, guys, because this key shows that it's a primary Coach bag from the 1980s, or whatever I'm saying. That's what sells it, is me understanding the product, and that takes a little bit of time. You're still selling hundreds of items at a minute at a time for 5 hours, 3 times a week. I mean, you can't make this kind of money in the closet, anywhere else. Selling it anywhere I've ever sold it, you can't do it this fast.
Awesome. I think I see one more. Go ahead.
Oh, we have a question back here.
Oh,
I'll run back up.
Okay.
Yes, I was able to get the mic. So I do shows as well, and I would love to hear how you deal with this pain point that's also a blessing. I will get a few buyers in my show, who will put together a bundle that might be 10 items or certainly more than 10 pounds. And what I offer to them is, okay, I'll break your bundle up after the show, you repurchase, and I pay for shipping on the additional bundles. That's my strategy with that. I would love to hear yours because one of the things that keeps me from doing a show of more than say 30 to 50 items is I don't want to do a 100 item show where all of a sudden one person buys 20 things and I'm out $50 in shipping. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
We do the same thing you do. Our thinking is, and look, we know this structure cannot work if it's a show that's largely, let's say, $3 items and they sell for $3 to $5. It doesn't work. We personally will absorb a large portion of the shipping because a lot of times, some of our best clients are buying 30, 40 items in the show. So we think if you're blowing that kind of cash, if we have to, dump in 20 or 25 bucks, it's worth it. But you really have to weigh that out to your own business plan, your own profit margin. But I can see it would be very difficult in, let's say, a lower range.
But also too real fast, we also have we have a lot of copy and paste, and I'm sure Megan does as well. We drop into the chat or even after the show. I have one that specifically says, thank you so much for your purchase. You bought a lot of things. It did go over a little bit overweight, but to say thank you and to show my appreciation for your business, we're gonna pay the overage for you. And honestly, they say thank you so much. I'm going back to your show. And yes, it does take away from your profit margin. And a lot of people are anti-doing that. But of course, once you get to 10 pounds, you have to break it up.
I think I'm gonna take this one other, and Posh, go ahead.
I two quick little one-sentence things to say. First of all, I have that pain point all the time. Sometimes people buy 100 pounds worth of stuff from me in one evening, okay? We don't go back. So I stagger it. I've done it multiple ways. Some of it may not be okay with USPS, but in the past, we've used older labels to get their stuff that is not, I don't recommend that. I use Shippo and buy a USPS brown label. Or what I do recommend is sending them a $3 listing and getting an extra label out of them and saying, hey guys, you bought a crazy amount. Say, you crazy, you're gonna have to pay $3 and get them another label so that you can ship their items. You can also buy up to a 10 pound label inside the Posh Mark, but go to Hackathon, it's changing.
Well, one from Megan.
There's something coming up.
Last question. Do you list your items or do you just run your show with what you have in inventory?
Second thing. We have listings. We have some higher end listings that I'll point to sometimes, but we just run, I don't have time. I mean, everything comes in and it goes right out. We have the stuff we buy the stuff and bring it in and set it up on the set, and that set is a barren ghost town the next morning. So it goes right out. And that's a good problem to have. That's what you want. You want to have to hire a shipping coordinator and ship that stuff out the next day. I promise you, you'll enjoy it.
And we quick list.
Yeah. So like when we get our merchandise in, I mean, we have probably right now 800 not for sale items, but they're all quick listed and ready to go. We have 10 racks sitting in our like we'll call it our stage area. So we have it all sitting around us when we're working. So it's just they're right there, ready to go. Just pull up the number.
And this really just very, very quickly, it shows that there's so many different ways that you can do things and be equally successful. It's about finding your own rhythm, what works for you. What the real key is, be professional, be happy, invite people in, and treat them like you are deserving of their purchase. You know what? You need them, they don't need you. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, I know we didn't get to all the questions. Feel free to come by and chat with any of us over the next 2 days. But I know there's a ton of sessions to go to, so we just really all wanted to say thank you for choosing to come to this one. I hope you learned a little bit, and just thank you. Enjoy the rest of POSHFEST.